forward to this.
Alright guys, welcome to the first video in our Beyond series. We're going to go through and just make a simple little Beyond game to get you guys familiar with the concepts. So let's just jump right in. We're going to, in Beyond, we need to use DreamMaker to code our actual games. This comes bundled right with your pager. When you install Beyond, you already have DreamMaker, so don't worry. So you can search up Windows, look up DreamMaker, or you can just write in the pager, gear icon, start DreamMaker. So we're going to have this window. This is our environment we're going to be coding in. So we just need to do File, New Environment, and name it whatever you'd like. Just call it Test Project, hit OK. And it's going to create a default DM file for us, DM file being DreamMaker, the language we're going to be programming in. And we'll leave that all default and hit OK. And it'll go ahead and here we go. So, don't worry, your editor is probably going to be white, and these are going to be all different colors. If that hurts your eyes, or if you like this dark theme better, all you need to do is go into Options at the top, Code Preferences, and you can change all of your colors. I'll go ahead and put these colors in the video description so you can try to match it if you'd like. And you can change your font and font color right in here. Or font size. So, let's just get started. So these are just your default variables. We'll talk about them later. Don't worry about them right now. They're pretty self-explanatory. So let's start with the classic hello world. So all we want to do is output the message hello world to our client. So to do that, we're going to do mob login. And we're going to output to the world hello world. That's it. Now we go up into the top and hit build compile. No errors. So now we're going to run. And you can see right here in our game client, hello world. Piece of cake, nothing to it. So that's great, but we actually want to be able to do stuff in our world, right? So let's go ahead and create a verb. And a verb is just a way for mobs to perform actions. So we'll go into that later, but for now, just go ahead and write mob verb, and we'll have him flex bicep, right? And when you use this verb, we want it to output to the world that we flex our bicep. So we're going to, in brackets, because we're outputting as a string, and we want to output a variable within our string. So we're going to put within brackets here, src. It stands for source, and that is the mob that is using the verb. You also can put user. They're not quite interchangeable. In some situations they are. Like in this you can, but we're going to use source. It's just better practice to use source and understand the differences. So source, and now we're outside the brackets, so we're back to the string. I'm going to write flexes his biceps. So we're going to build compile, still no errors, and we're going to run. So you can see now in our little window we have a new command called flex bicep, just what we created. Now if you click this, you'll see we output to the world that Grind Knight flexes his biceps. Now if you're wondering why it says Grind Knight here, that is because in your pager you're logged into your key, and by default the name of this mob is Grind Knight. That's the default value. We can change this if we'd like to, and that's really easy. And let's go ahead and let's make a verb to change our name. So we're going to say mob verb, and we're going to call this change name. It's the same so far, except now we want to be able to enter a new name. So to do that, we're going to write T as text. And all this means is when we call this verb, it's going to ask us what we would like to pass through as the text. So ahead and write that there. And we're just going to say we're going to output to the world again. No, we're not. We just want to change the name. We don't need to output to the world yet. Let's just do source.name. We're accessing the source, which is the mob using the verb. And we're going to access their variable that is name. And we're going to change this. We're going to set this by using an equal sign. We're going to set to t. And all this is saying the source's name, the mob using this verb, their name is now whatever we just put up here. Now we're going to output to the world. Your name is now, and we're going to do the brackets again because we want to put a variable in here. I'm going to say source.name. You can leave it as source too, but we're going to do source.name. So we're going to build, compile, no errors, and run. And you see we have our new command up here, new verb. So we're going to flex our biceps. Granite flexes his biceps. We're going to now change our name. We're going to become Super Grind Knight. Hit OK. Your name is now Super Grind Knight. So now if you hit flex bicep, you'll see Super Grind Knight flexes his biceps. It's that easy to change your name. So we'll go ahead and close this. And, well, what if it's not his? What if it's her? Well, we can do that really easily. Byond luckily has this built in. So if we put a slash here in front of his, you'll see if we build, we compile and run, we flex bicep, that slash is not here in the string. That's because it knows when we put a slash in a string like this in front of certain keywords, it will use the proper gender that your mob is. And that is, again, a default value that you set when you created your Byond account. So if we want to change this, though, for example, if we came up here into our verb and we said, well, source.gender is equal to female, and we compile and run, when we flex bicep, you'll see now it says Granite flexes her biceps. And that is because, even though it still says his in here, because it knows what the gender is and it's able to change the grammar. So that's very easy. We'll go ahead and comment this out. And if you don't know what comment is, it's just double slash here. And this means the compiler won't read this line. It'll ignore this line completely. You don't have to worry about it. It's nice to leave little notes in here so you can, maybe you need this code later, you want it as a reference, whatever you'd like. This is a great chance. So if you're a little lost on, like, well, what else can I use for slash his? Well, we're going to press F1, and it's going to open our little help guide built right into DreamMaker. So let's type, well, let's see, we want to learn about gender. So we're going to type gender, and you're going to see it gives us recommendations. We'll hit enter. And here we go, default value, and you can set the gender either this way or like this, a string, whatever you'd like. And see related, we'll say macros for text. And in here you can see just like we have slash his, there's slash him, himself, herself, proper, improper. And these are all the rules you can use for grammar. Whatever you'd like to do here. And you can see there's a lot of things. Don't feel overwhelmed if this looks like too much. You can easily search for it. You can search over here for specific things too. It's great. So let's close that. So next, let's set up a way to talk in the world, right? So let's make a new verb called say. And so normally you can see when I make these, I do mob verb, change name, mob verb, flex bicep. I like to do it this way because it keeps things organized. I can read it a little easier. But some people like to set it up like this. And this is totally fine if you would like to do it this way. This would still work as if you wrote mob verb. And that's only because there's no other code in between here. So it still knows that it is a child of mob verb. This is a verb for mobs. So anyway you'd like. I like to put mob verb every line, but to each their own. So now let's go ahead and output our message that we just entered. So you click this verb, it's going to pop up a little message box, ask you to write something in. And all we want to do is output to the world. We're going to say source, so we know that the mob using this, their name, says, and we just want to output whatever they entered, which is the variable t, which we put in brackets because we're accessing the variable, putting the variable within a string. And that's it. So compile and run. And you'll see we have all of our stuff in here. Flex bicep. And we can do say. We can say hello world. Grindnight says hello world. We'll change our name to Super Grind Night. We'll talk again. And now Super Grind Night says hello again. Easy. So that's all great, but now we'd probably like to actually have a world we can see and walk around in. These verbs are useless if we can't really do anything in the world. So let's make the world. And all we have to do for that is let's start by making a map. So we're going to do File, New. We're going to drop this down to a map file. We'll just call this testmap.dmm. DMM being the map file extension. Hit OK. It'll ask what size we want to set this to. Let's just say 30 by 30. Hit OK. And you can see our empty map. There's nothing we can do. We don't have anything we can do in the map. We can't put turfs or anything in here yet. We don't have them defined. So let's set up some turfs. So all we have to do, this is very similar to mob, but now we're going to say turf. And we're going to say grass. Turf grass, and we need to give it an icon. We'll set the icon, which is icon equals, and we're going to use single quotes here because we are defining a path, a file. So within those, we're going to say, let's call it grass.dmi, which we don't have yet. So let's make a quick grass.dmi. We'll do file new, and this time it's going to be an icon file. We're going to call it grass.dmi. And you can set a path if you'd like. We're just going to leave it empty because then it defaults to your project folder. So hit OK here. And it creates our icon file. You can actually do some icon editing in here, which we're going to do real quick. So just double click an empty tile and it will load us in here. And in here, we're just going to flood it with green. We're going to make a little grass. And, I'm no artist. Just so you can see that there's a pattern going on in this grass. So when you're done, go ahead and hit back. And we're going to give it a name. Let's call it State 1. Just so we know. It's our first grass state. And in here, we've defined grass, but let's give it the icon state so it knows which state to use. I'm going to set this to state 1. That's what I named it, right? Yeah, state 1. So now we know what icon file that our turf grass is using and what icon state it should be using from this file. So we're going to build compile. No errors, that's great. So now let's go back into our map. And in our map, you can see over here, we have turf, and there's a little plus sign. I'll click that. And we've defined a turf, and we've named it grass, and you can see the icon here. So if we were to put grass in the world, easy. Now we have a little bit of a world here we can see. So now if we go up here and we compile and run, you'll see the world's still black. That's because we don't have a location set for the mob yet. It's out of the world at the moment. And that is because by default, it will normally set the mob's location. We're overriding the login proc. So if we were to comment this out, you'd see now we're in the world. And that we don't have to comment it out. You can already move around the arrow keys. Byond's very friendly. We don't have to comment it out. We can actually just call the parent proc if we'd like. And that's just ... parentheses. And all this does is call the login proc. So we're not overwriting it. Now we're adding on to it. Don't worry about that. We'll get into that later. It's a different concept. So now if you compile it, you'll see we're in the world again. Piece of cake. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a player icon because we want to be have a mob that runs around. We can see them. So let's go in here. We're going to do mob, and we're going to say icon equals player.dmi. Now we don't have this file yet, so let's go ahead and let's make this file. New, we're going to do icon. We're going to call it player.dmi. Exactly what we just wrote. Hit OK, and again, double click in here. We're going to draw a quick little player. Just going to make him this little purple guy. All right, and give him some eyes and a little smiley face. And if we go back in the project, all we got to do, compile and run. And you can see now we have a little mob. A little mob can run around with your arrow keys. And works. So we probably want to animate the player now. So let's set up a quick animation state. You can mess with this more on your own later, but I'll quickly go through it so you know what's happening. So let's start just by setting up 4 directions for our sprite. We're just going to do that by clicking 4 directions down here. And let's change up the state. We want to, when he's moving north, we don't want to see his face. And when he's moving east, let's take the face out. And we'll make him a little skinnier. And then we'll go ahead and just say, there's his eye and his mouth. So you know that he's facing to the right. So let's copy our east state, put it here, and we'll just mirror that. So now you know he's facing to the left. So now if we were to compile and run, you can see when you move around, his direction changes to match whatever direction you're moving in. Very easy. But we want to have a little animation going. So let's add one more frame. And for all of these, just left click to select multiple frames. Highlight all of them. And we'll say move everything up 1 pixel. So you can see the animation preview. There's him walking. So hit back, and we're going to go in here, and we're just going to make sure this is a movement state, just so it knows to not infinitely loop the animation. So now we're in game, and you can see as he moves around, he animates. Little animation we made. So now let's do one last thing. Let's change the mob's starting position. And we can do that right up here. We'll do it in the login. You can make this a verb if you'd like. And all we're going to do is say the mob using this, mob calling this, we're going to say their location is equal to locate. And we're going to pass in an X, Y, and Z value. So let's do X, Y, and Z. Now we're always on Z layer 1 right now, and we can go into that later. But for now, Z should just stay at 1. So let's go ahead and compile one more time. And you can see we started up here because this is the new 5, coordinate we set rather than the default of 1, 1, 1. So that's it. Hope to see you in the next video, which we will try to get out very soon.